Well, it is 9:10 p.m. here in Accra, Ghana. Good evening and welcome to State of Affairs. And tonight we'll be looking at primarily the Green Revolution in the just ended 2024 elections, and with a special focus on the Central Region. You know, the Central Region is known as one of the swing regions in Ghana. In fact, political analysts have stated that whoever the Central Region decides to back is who Ghana backs for an election. And so tonight we'll be getting into the conversation. My guest is seated and we'll start right about now. But before we do that, get ready for a game changer if you're an SME, because we are introducing Yellow Biz, which is our new multi-service bundle with everything you need for smarter business solutions. Now, this all-in-one package consists of a 4G plus router with 10 gigabytes of free data, Microsoft Office 365, genuine Microsoft applications, web-based customized business website for your business, Unicom services, and the list goes on and on. So what you need to do is to simply call us and we will get that for you, all for a very good deal you don't want to miss. So with MTN Yellow Biz, your business will gain access to advanced productivity tools, a powerful online presence, and superior customer service experience to optimize your operations. So to stay ahead of your competition, call 100 or 0244 308111 or email us at mtnbusiness.gh@mtn.com or simply visit mtn.com.gh/business or visit any MTN office for your Yellow Biz and stay connected everywhere you go. Remember, terms and conditions apply. So my guest this evening is a man who is no stranger to this studio or channel. He is the Member of Parliament and also MP elect for Cape Coast South, George Kweku Ricketts-Hagan. He's joined me this evening. Honorable, welcome.
Thank you.
And congratulations, I'm sure definitely are in place.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Much appreciated.
Definitely. I mean, after a resounding victory for you and the NDC in the December 7 general elections, I'm sure that a lot of work is cast out for you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much once again, Kodjo. And good evening to your viewers. And also, if I take the opportunity to thank the people of Cape Coast. I know they watch you, Cape Coast South and the whole of Cape Coast actually. And I think we must be grateful to Ghanaians for giving His Excellency John Dramani Mahama the opportunity to lead this country once again, and for us as the team players to be part of that team once again.
Right. And
with God on our side, hopefully we'll be able to deliver to meet the expectations of Ghanaians, which is very, very high.
Right. Well, we'll come to the expectations of Ghanaians, because I've heard people talk about the fact that this coming of John Dramani Mahama would be the game changer for his legacy and even for the NDC. But looking at the Central Region, looking at the number of seats you now control, 18 seats out of 23, did you see that coming?
I did, actually. I have been a Central Regional Minister before.
Definitely.
And I know the roller coaster that you can have in the region. I mean, when I became the regional minister, I think we had about 11 or so, seats, or 16 seats, I believe. Then we dropped to 4, and mine was among the 4. Then, of course, we climbed up and then go to 13.
13, yeah.
And then from 13, we've gone to 18. There were seats that we could have won in all these elections that I have been part of, that we lost. And I thought that it was only a matter of time if we get our act together to be able to win those seats. As you rightly said, the Central Region is a swing region. Yeah. And it has lived, to its name. And that whoever wins Central Region always wins the presidency. That might not be exactly true, but it's proven to be the case that at least to become president, you need a Central Region. In the last election, not the one before, 2020 election,
right,
when we got 13 seats, which was, the seats are 23. So by getting 13 seats, it means we've crossed the half mark, and the NPP getting 10. But they won the presidency. So, the conundrum in the central region is quite an interesting one. So for us to be able to do something serious in the central region, we had to win massively. And some of the seats, in fact, we won back all our 13 seats with the exception of one. And that we could have won. That's Upper Dinchua West. That we could have won had it not been to some little issues, that happened over there and all that. And then we were able to obviously get additional, in this case, 6 seats for us to be able to get a 13. Otherwise, we would have just needed 5 to be able to do so.
Right.
So basically, we lost 5 seats, or I would say those were seats. I think it was only one of them that we had won before, and that was Gomoa Central, which is now being the seat for the independent, candidate. And then, of course, I said the Dinchua one that we lost, but all the other ones were seats. I think one of them to Lower Himan Dinchua too, we have won it before. But the places we've never won for a very long time, like the Asin Central, which used to be the formidable.
Were you surprised Kennedy by that one? Because, Kennedy Japan, in control of that particular constituency, gave the NDC a run for its money. So it was one of the seats that you knew at a point that, yes, you could never get when you were, it was under Kennedy Japan. But now it's come to your side.
Yes, as I said, because of the opportunity I had to serve under President Mahama as a Central Regional Minister, I became very much involved in the detailed sort of a voting analysis of the central region, especially in the 2016 election. And I've always held the belief that if we didn't have Kennedy in Japan, that seat could be taken. And if you didn't have his backing, you realize that, of course, he went to run for president, was not successful, and joined more of a national campaign, not in a lukewarm kind of way. But he didn't pay much attention to his constituency, and by that I mean by backing the candidate to the hills. If he had done so, which would mean that he was 100% into that candidate, probably that could have made a difference.
His influence.
So people felt that Kennedy is gone, the Kennedy is gone. And the guy there, quite formidable, the NDC guy. He has some challenges, with the internal challenges. But I thought that when I met him, I knew that he could do something. And he said something to me on our last meeting. We used to meet. And then when he was leaving, he came to me and said, that was before the election. He said, I will see you in Parliament.
So he was very confident.
Yes.
That he was going to see you in the next Parliament.
And he is going to see me in Parliament. So that I thought was somebody who was absolutely confident that he could pull the thing off, because he had also done his homework quite well and knew, the situation on the ground. So I wasn't shocked, because I had known the region in detail, not only in my constituency. Of course, when you are regional minister, from the Dinchua to Kasua is under your, so you need to understand the dynamics there and all that. And then also I most of our, in 2013, and not 2013, 2020 election, previously we had only 4 seats. And then we gained the additional seat to get us to 13.
To 13, yes.
So most of our candidates who were already MPs were first-timers. Who really wanted a second term. Apart from the new ones who were the PCs who came in. But apart from 4 of us, the rest were all newcomers who, Honorable Gizela Tete, Mintanyako, Cape Coast North, Gansa, and all of them were first time, Richard and all that, John. And they desperately were working hard. Gizela worked like, because he had a formidable, coming from the Jubilee House or the Flagstaff House, Eugene Ahin also.
The Director of Communications for the Presidency.
If you have him as your opponent, and you know that the tap will be open from the Flagstaff House or Jubilee House, then you know that you are up to, So we worked very hard, and we had a strategy this time. And also, I think one thing that helped, and that was across the country, is that JM's second term came with a momentum.
Okay.
And I think those of us who rode on that momentum, we had to do very little to be successful. So we realized that President Mahama won more than most of the candidates, unlike the other last time around.
Yeah.
He gets more votes than the candidate. So that tells you that there was something powerful, moving President Mahama, and that whoever tags along could easily, get. Those of us who have been around for some time, 4 terms and all that. Of course, there are some peculiarities and all that. Some of us had people who were voting from us from the other side, since time immemorial and all that. So that also worked in our favor. I mean, interestingly, especially in Cape Coast, we don't tend to have huge margins. Cape Coast can be very polarized. Yeah. Usually maximum about 1,000 something. If you are lucky, 2,000. I don't think I've even gone beyond 2,000 people, though I always win. So to move to over 7,000 was quite astronomical.
You made what? 56.7%?
Yeah, 57%.
57%.
Yeah.
And that was quite high.
Yeah, and my opponent was was somewhere down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that also shows that the confidence, because you cannot just because you are NDC, because we have people who are NDC who lost their seat and President Mahama won. It's not because that you are NDC that Ghanaians were basically didn't want the MPP back that they will vote for you. It depends on what you bring to the table as a candidate. Okay. And especially the longer that you've been around, the more difficult it gets. Because if you're a first timer, they could say, oh, he has only had 1 term, let's give him another term. But when he's there 1, 2, 3, then people are going to look at your record and decide. And then you have your opponent, whose strategy is to, let's try and tarnish his image.
Right.
Let's say things that will make the people think that this guy has been around for too much and hasn't done much for us. And that was done against me massively. I mean, my name...
In Cape South?
Yes. My name was by the MPP. My name was on a radio station every morning. But people who have studied marketing and all that will tell you. Sometimes these kind of things that you are doing that you think is negative can actually work in favor of the candidate, where people will have sympathy. Why is this guy being bashed every day?
What were they saying about you?
Oh, they were giving flimsy excuses that what does Honorable use his common fund and stuff for? Where everybody knows that the common fund doesn't come to the Honorable. It goes to the Assembly, and the Chief Executive who was asking what the MP uses his common fund for is the one who signs it. And then, the people have some kind of love for you because of what you do. I said, nobody will love you if you don't do anything for them.
Right.
So, if you have to understand it, it's not about just the MP's work is intervention and sort of building a human capital. And human capital can be anything. Even when people are not healthy, you cannot promise them jobs and all that. When a guy says, I'm dying, Honorable, you've got to sort out my clinical needs first before you give me a job.
You can't tell the person that your job is to make laws.
Yeah, you can't, because Ghana is still a developing country. So we have taken upon us some aspect of development. That is why the MPs get 5% of the common fund. Ideally, MPs shouldn't have been given any common fund at all, because development should be in the hands of the assemblies. And therefore, the MPs should rather get money to manage their offices. So that 5%, which for me is still inadequate, could have been used to manage the MP's offices and dealing with some daily problems that come. Of course, that could involve helping people with their school fees and doing all those things, even when we have free education. So those things are there. Right. So you've got to do what the people want you to do. One thing I've seen across the country, that every MP wants to build a chip compound. So you sit down and ask yourself, I mean, yes, we're a country with clinical needs, people need to be, but what are your priorities? You cannot have the same priorities. It should be different. Right. What comes first? A chip compound or something else? And then you see many people that because of inadequate funds, they force themselves to start a chip compound that they are never able to complete. And the chip compound will end up in the bushes. And then when they lose their seat as a result of not completing the chip compound, the next MP who comes, presumably if they're from the other party, will never touch that project.
Okay.
So that would have been money sunk, and then it becomes on the ground.
Part of the statistics of abandoned projects.
Absolutely.
And then the people get to suffer.
Yes.
Because they don't benefit from these projects.
I did something quite, which no MP, I've never heard any MP done before. One of the first things I did was to buy buses to take school kids to school, free of charge.
In your constituency?
Yes. I bought 3 buses. It became an issue when I was being vetted for one of my ministerial positions, where I got the money to buy the buses. So I thought, instead of learning how to do a good job for your people, you're asking how it was done. And when I was in school, or when I was a schoolboy in Cape Coast, I traveled quite a bit to go to school. Okay. It's quite a walking distance. But because you have friends, you tend to walk with your friends. So you meet friends, you walk with them. So you don't see, but it's quite a distance.
Okay.
And most of the time, the sun comes up early.
So that was the motivation for you?
So that was the motivation. Buses. Because when I lived outside, my kids were being picked by buses to send to school. And I said, what's unique about this? That it has to happen here and can't happen in Ghana. All you have to do is have the bus, the school kids are there to take them to school. You don't have to be in Europe or what for that to happen. And I did that simple experiment, put 3 buses to take people to school so that the parents don't have to spend money to give their kids money for taxis and whatever. So that they go to school safely. And
you believe this, among others, resonated with the people of Kweku South?
Absolutely.
Yet you were being bashed?
Yes, I was being bashed. So that is what did not work. Okay. Because those who were bashing me were forgetting about certain things, that these people love this guy so much that we must do something for them to hate him. But what we've done for the people is in their heart. They prepare their kids every morning to wait for what they call a Ricketts bus, to take Ricketts to school, kids to school, which means that I don't have to give my ward money
for transportation.
And then they will bring my child home safely.
Is this still operational?
It is. Right. But the buses are, of course, old. In fact, it got to a point, the buses were not only taking school kids, but become buses that were being used for funerals over the weekend, for weddings, and for pretty much everything.
Right.
So when you put fuel in to take kids to school on Monday, people have taken it to the cemetery and finished the fuel. So you need to put more fuel. So it became like a community service.
Okay.
The bus was rendering services to the community in terms of people who could not afford, when they are bereaved, can use your buses free of charge. The same way as people are going to weddings free of charge.
Okay.
And the school kids and all that. So some of these interventions, we've got to be thinking about not just putting some structures that probably nobody will ever, do anything in it. And then you have this politics of who is actually responsible for development and all that. And we do the right thing to develop our people. I mean, luckily, President Mahama is coming up with so many things, apprenticeship programs and training and all that, which were things that we do. But most of the time, your capacity is not that you can train somebody, then when it comes to the next level of the person getting a job, it becomes a bit of a problem.
Okay.
Now all these things are going to, so the MPs should be able to do a much better job, this time around with Mahama policies that are
I'll come to the policies, and especially the central region and how it is also positioning to benefit from these policies, because we know that yes, the policies are national, but then when it comes to implementation on the regional basis, the needs vary. But I want to find out quickly from you, looking at the green wave that blew through the central region, 18 seats now with the NDC, 1 with the independent candidates, and then the NPP managing 4 out of the 10 they used to hold previously in this parliament, which will expire very soon, by the way. What role did the Naana Jane effect play in all of this?
Well, 2 things. First of all, being from the region itself is a plus. I mean, you cannot say that she didn't bring anything to the table. Because she's from the region, so people could identify with her. And she's a woman who is really risen to the top in the region as a vice chancellor of the university. So there was a lot of admiration for having her and being, as they call, our own.
Okay.
Secondly, being a woman, and for the first time, having a major political party having a woman on the presidential ticket was a big plus for women. I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of young girls could see themselves in the future in her, would have gone massively to vote for her, thinking that one day I could also be Naana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. So I think that's a major factor. And then of course, she campaigned with us, you know, in the region. I mean, I remember about a day or so to the election, she came again and she asked me, what can I do with you, Kweku? Where can we go? Then I chose the fishing community. And it was fantastic on that day. You know, so she brought a lot to the table.
Okay.
And then of course, it's not surprising that we were able to get that, you know, that number of votes. Yeah.
So in terms of the nominal figures, John Mahama made over 500,000 votes from the central region.
Yeah.
But we saw that your contenders in the NPP did about 300,000. There was some level of apathy also in the region. What accounted for that?
Well, lies. Lies. Okay? Because the NPP had lied so much to the central region in so many things, and central region did not see anything. First of all, we feel that 2016 election was won on lies. Some will say that there was some rigging. I mean, I don't have any proof that. But as a regional minister, there were lies being told about President Mahama and the NDC party, about a whole lot of things. And Central Region is one of the poorest regions. And some of the things that we hear, it's like a mile apart. The president had houses in Dubai and this, and people just can't get food to eat. The government is building infrastructure. Look at the Kaswa interchange, and they are using things like a friend say overhead nebedi. All those things played part of people thinking that.
But were those lies?
Well, because you cannot say that it's not interchange that you are going to eat, and therefore it's important to provide food and interchange without thinking about what roads will do for you. Roads connect you from the hinterland where the food is being grown to the cities. Therefore, you need good roads so that the food can be cheap. Part of the reason why food is expensive, when you go to the farm gate, food might be cheap, but when you bring it to the city, fuel, the roads, and that's transportation, plays a role. So if you could bring down fuel, you could provide better transportation, you can have better roads, food will be cheaper when they get to the cities.
So the people bought into the lies in 2016,
yes,
but then saw the light.
Then saw the light. In 2020, that's election that is quite because they dropped from almost 1 million votes to 500. But then again, maybe from what we are seeing today, you can now put some explanation to it. So people did not believe, but what actually worked in their favor was the COVID. COVID actually worked in the favor of the government. In a sense,
because I mean, they have blamed that for the challenges that we've seen with the administration, COVID, Ukraine, and all of that.
But you see,
so how did that work in their favor?
Because COVID also brought a lot of money. Most of the money they used for their 2020 campaign came from COVID. They were able to splash money to win the elections because people were struggling. Quite apart from poverty, people could not even go out to work because of COVID restrictions. People could not go out to get food. So when you bring these monies to them and you lie to them and tell them all these things, they would say that, okay, we need to get out of this COVID. This guy they are telling us that they are the ones who can get us out of the COVID and all that. They bought into the lies again. And they were able to, obviously, win a second term. Then the 4 years, that's when the 4 more for Nana. The logic behind it is that the 4 years was not enough for Nana to complete what he was doing for us. So another 4 years is needed.
4 years, for 4 more to do more.
Yeah, 4 more to do more. And it happens that it's actually 8 years to do less.
Interesting. So my guest this evening is George Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South. Is also the MP-elect for the constituency. In fact, he will be doing a 4th term in the 9th Parliament. He was a member of the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, which is currently ongoing, and then would also be a member of the 9th Parliament representing the good people of Cape Coast South. Tonight we're having a conversation on the Central Region, the dynamics and all that happened, and what we should also expect. But let's just take a minute or two and watch how he also campaigned in the region and in the constituency to win the mandate of the people. So that was the NDC's campaign in the Central Region. In fact, one of the many campaigns held there basically to whip up the numbers and also to sell the message of the 24-hour economy, among others, to the electorate. But let's come back and talk about the region still. Now, you have a commanding control of the Central Region. Does that put pressure?
Of course it does. Because that means that the expectations, I mean, you have a government that did not deliver according to the people, and they voted you in because they believe you will deliver based on your promises and the programs that you have. And then, of course, we have been there before.
Okay.
The unique advantage for the NDC and for President Mahama is that he's been president before. You know, it's much tougher when you've done it before and you are seeking the mandate of the people that you've never done it. When you've never done it, you can say anything and people will believe that you can do it. This is the problem Bawumia had, because he would say anything to anyone. He would sell anything, you know.
But he was vice president. He saw how things were happening.
Yeah, but I mean, Bawumia was selling snow to the Eskimos. I mean, he would tell you anything you want to hear, you know. And people did not see the consistency. Because this is a guy who was brought in to fix the economy. And that's what we were told. It's never happened in Ghana's history before, where a vice president has been picked based on a particular area of the economy, and the economy, a particular area of the country, as the economy, which is the biggest problem. Economy is the center of everything. It's an economy that increases productivity. It's an economy that brings jobs. It's an economy that will, you know, hold our currency. It's an economy that pushes our export drive, economy that reduces our import and all that. So it's the center of everything. And all of a sudden you have a magician who can fix all this problem. And they put him that this is the reason I'm picking, even the party, because the guy was not really a party person. So to sell him by Nana Akufo-Addo to the party, he had to tell them, this is what this guy is going to do for us. And they bought into it. And that's how they sold him to us. And then he came and he started propounding these economic theories, these lectures and all that. And those of us who are economists were just looking at what he was doing. But I have been saying this many times, that I saw through him that he was not a practitioner. I realized that he was a theoretical economist, and we have theoretical economists who most of the time spend all their time in the classroom. So they will tell you a good story, but actually when you go to the field that you are implementing the economics you are talking about, you realize that things will not go according to, and how you adjust things is what will make you a great economist. But Dr.
Bawumia says, even as vice president, he's been able to implement over 34 policies that are propelling the economy.
And
you call him a theoretical...
Yeah, he's a Bawumia, and I've said it. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying it here for the first time. Yeah. It's been published. I've said it years, that Bawumia...
And you still hold on to that?
I still hold on to that. He's a theoretical economist. I have practiced economics, so I can actually see the difference, and I can see where he's lacking. Because by working for certain institutions and all that, by working for banks, if you're an economist. Well, banks are the ones who deal directly with businesses in terms of taking money from them and all that. So you can actually see, if you want to know how the Ghana economy is going, go to the bank managers and ask them. They will tell you who are defaulting on their business borrowing, those whose capitals have been eroded as a result of exchange rate and all that. And you look at it, where exactly did Bawumia work? Number one, Bawumia was teaching for many years. So that is where the theoretical economy comes. Most teachers don't practice.
Right.
Now, in the Western world, you have teachers who are also do practice as consultants and all that. Then where did he work next? The Bank of Ghana. Central bank governing is different from, the market itself governing.
Okay.
It's a completely different. A commercial bank manager is different from a central bank manager. Because central bank is a bank of last resort. You deal with those things at that level, not the nitty-gritty of the market. Okay? Yes, maybe to some extent, when you are dealing with exchange rate matters and all that, being able to put money, currency in the system to hold depreciation and all that. But when it comes to actually looking at the way the whole system will work together, was a bit problematic, So he talks a good talk. He's a good economist. I mean, when you say you're a good economist, that doesn't mean you're a good practitioner. Okay. A good economist. But he was not a good when it comes to practicing of the economy. And it's not only to economists. For all walks of life, you have people who are good with theory, but when you give them the job, they can't do it.
Okay.
So that's the kind of person. And then later on, he did something that I thought clever, but probably he didn't think about it.
And which was?
Which was moving into digital economy is the future. But he moved it in the wrong way. He should have moved into digital economy rather than moving into digitalization on its own.
Okay.
He should have married the two for people to connect where he is coming from with his economics. Why the country going forward need the economy to be digital for efficiency and effectiveness. And he lost that.
Okay.
So that, for me, is his problem. Okay. It's not that digitalization is wrong or NDC doesn't believe that. We do believe that. But you've got to connect it. It doesn't stand in isolation.
Okay.
So don't start doing certain things and then move completely away from what you are good at.
Okay.
If you move from your base, you are lost. You need your base to build on that. And that's what, and then of course the lies. He promised, as I said, if you're an Eskimo, he said he'll give you snow. If he came to Cape Coast, I'm giving you a harbor. I'm giving you an airport. And the president comes and says on the same day that I don't think I will give Cape Coast airport or harbor. So then you begin to ask yourself, who is running the country? So for people in Central Region,
right,
that is a lie.
Okay.
And he never said anything about that again.
You know what? We'll come back to that and we'll also look at how the reset agenda will also work in the Central Region. You're still watching State of Affairs right here on GHOne television with me, Joshua Kodjo Mensah. Now, let me tell you about Buy Now, Pay Later with Centro, because with that, you can now buy a sleek and trendy smartphone and enjoy the luxury of paying in convenient weekly or monthly installment plans. All you have to do is to walk into any of MTN's service centers to choose your favorite from a wide range of mobile phones on offer. Now, let me tell you the best part. All phones come with up to 2 GB free data, so you can share your pictures, get all the biggest scoops online for the first 6 months after purchase. So go on, share the exciting news with your family and friends, and stay connected on the smart side of life with MTN and Centro. We'll go for a quick breather. We'll be back with the conversation. Stay with us. Well, thank you so much for staying on with us. This is State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. My guest is the Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, Judge Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, and we are having a conversation on the NDC's victory, the fact that Central Region has now turned green, and the conversations also surrounding what to expect from the John Mahama administration. So now let me come back to you on the resetting agenda. The NDC believes that Ghana has been so destroyed that you cannot continue to repair. What you need to do is to start again and then reset. What really does that mean? You are an economist. You've been a Deputy Minister of Finance, Deputy Minister of Trade, Central Regional Minister. Really, what does the reset agenda mean for us? Well,
reset basically means that you are going in one direction and you realize that that direction is not working for you. There's an English saying that you cannot do the same thing over and over and expect a different result.
Yeah.
So to be able to change direction, you must reset. If you are going forward or if you are going backwards and you need to go forward, you need to make a 360 turn. When you do 360, you have reset to move in a different direction. It is that simple. So where are we that we need to reset? We are a country that has been swallowed by debt, where debt, when Mahama handed over at about 120 billion, had been moved to over 700, nearly 800 billion. We are a country that is not growing, but we are actually cooking the figures to say that the country is growing. And I will explain to you by that. To put it mildly, they call it financial engineering. That is basically cooking the figures. We're a country that we've gotten to a dizzy height of inflation. Inflation is coming down, but it's still not down enough. And the bulk of our inflation is food inflation, which is really the basic that people should get. If a country should be so hard, it shouldn't be its food. Because when people eat, they can forgo certain things. But when they haven't eaten, then everything else comes to play. We are a country where interest rate is so high. Therefore, it will not augur well for you as a business person to go and borrow money to do your business, which most business people do.
Right.
You do business by either inheritance, friends and family supporting you, or you go to the bank and borrow because you believe in your business ideas. But when you are paying interest rate, that is about 2 or 3 times higher than the returns you make from your business. It's not that you are in a bad business, but you're actually in a bad country.
Right.
So these are the things. You're in a country where you cannot predict your exchange rate if you are an importer into the country. Today you go and import something into the country at 16 Ghana cedis. Tomorrow when you are going in 17, you come and sell your things. The things you buy in dollars, you come and sell them in Ghana in cedis. The very cedi that you get is what you will exchange to get your dollars again to go and buy. But if that cedi is depreciating, the 16 cedis you used the last time to purchase something to come and sell, by the time you are going back again, that 15 cedis cannot buy you the dollar.
Right.
So we cannot continue to go on like we are and thinking that when we take our head like an ostrich, when you get your head out of the sun, the economy will be any different. We were deteriorating. We had gone to the cliff. Ghana is actually technically a bankrupt country.
Is that why James says Ghana, our economy is sick?
Extremely sick. I mean, he used a term which I thought was quite interesting. And I have heard it many years ago in my student days in America when President Clinton said, is the economy stupid? And JM used it recently, which I thought was quite interesting.
that generated a lot of conversation, though.
It is the economy stupid. I mean, what is it that this country is supposed to be? It is a Commonwealth country. This country has got 4 oil fields, or this is a mineral-rich country. We pretty much have everything, but then we have nothing. I mean, we still have money on the ground bigger than the debt, but yet we cannot pay our debt. We have unilaterally, as a country, stopped paying our debt since 2022. We've not been paying our debt. All our external debt, the euro bonds and all that, we are not paying it. So how can you tell me you are growing as a country? you chalk a 9.7% or whatever growth. That's a deception.
So the 7.2 that we are being told now
is the greatest deception.
Because the president said that's what he was told before even he addressed the transition team. And so he says, you know what, we are going back to pre-COVID days.
President has been told a lot of things. And all the things they've told the president are pure lies. And of course, the president is an intelligent guy. But he tends to go along with these things. They tell him, we have built this number, you remember Parliament, number of kilometers of roads. The president is saying something different from what his road minister was saying, but they gave him the same information. Ghana is not doing well. Ghana is not growing over 9%. It's impossible, because when you put all the economic indicators down, they are interlinked. There's a relationship between interest rate and inflation. There's a relationship between growth and unemployment, inflation, and so they are all linked. Relationship between exchange rate and interest rate, and relationship between debt, servicing, and most of the things happening in your economy. Because before, as you in your own household, before you declare profit in your house, when you pick your salary, you look at your expenses.
Right.
And then when you take your expenses out of your salary, your net salary you take home, before you say, this is the free space I have to spend, you cannot go and buy yourself a 60-inch TV because your salary gives that gap.
Right.
Without you taking care of your expenses. Your rent and other things must come before you see whether you can buy a color TV or a 60-inch TV. Ghana is buying a 60-inch TV without taking into account its expenses. And one of its major expenses is debt servicing,
right,
which we are not paying. So if you factor in debt servicing, the growth will be nothing to write home about.
Interesting. And I'm sure we'll have a full conversation on the economy.
One thing that NDC has to be very careful of, as when we come into government, they are painting very rosy picture of the economy. Growth is this is coming down, this is coming down. So all these numbers they are giving us will be crystallized. Okay? When NDC comes to power, 2 or 3, 4 years down the road, when we start paying the debt from January and we start taking into account whatever growth we are experiencing with the debt and stuff we have to pay, and therefore the growth will go down, they are going to now start doing comparison. What economy did we leave you? 9.7 growth. Where have you gotten it to? Nobody will mention debt. And that's what we need to point out from the very onset, that MPP is leaving Ghana with a very deceptive economy. The economy is not doing what they claim it's doing, not interest rate.
So you're saying inflation. That the government is not being real with us in terms
it's
of
not being real with us. And they've been doing this since time immemorial. Okay. Even if you look at it before we went into COVID, when we were challenging them on certain figures about deficit, they wanted to be able to stay within the fiscal, rules of not going above 5%. Therefore, they were suppressing certain expenditure items to achieve that.
And that's what they're doing now again.
That's what they're doing now again.
Okay.
But this time, the biggest thing is that we're not paying our debt. And when NDC comes to power in January, the negotiations they've done for debt repayment, the external debt alone is about $1 billion a year. So the moment NDC start paying $1 billion a year, it means we are going to start with a budget that has a hole of $1 billion. And imagine if you have to use cedis to pay that $1 billion and your exchange rate is running away from you, then you're going to be spending a lot of money.
Servicing debts.
This is something we need to come out from the very onset to let Ghanaians know that all these numbers are deceptive numbers. We can actually calculate.
Okay.
Looking at our debt, we know how much debt we have to pay a year and discount it from 2022, and you will actually be able to see what the actual growth and other things are.
So we would have to have a conversation second time. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. And finally, before we take your final words, people are lobbying. Are we seeing you back at the Finance Ministry soon?
That's in the hands of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
But you would be glad to serve there?
Whatever he wants me to serve. whatever role I will play in this government, I will be more than happy. I just want to be part of the government of John Dramani Mahama to be able to do the things he's talking about, that I know that we have the knowledge to be able to help to make it successful.
Right.
President Mahama has to succeed for Ghanaians to succeed. President Mahama has to succeed for him to be totally vindicated.
Right.
President Mahama has to succeed for NDC to have a future. President Mahama has to succeed to prevent the diabolic MPP from coming back to power in the shortest possible time to destroy Ghana further.
Okay. So,
and the 24-hour economy, which we haven't had much time.
Yes,
I say
we'll come back.
It's a multiplicity. You know, if you ask me, all the good policies President Mahama is coming out of, two of them that I think will be a game changer is the 24-hour economy and the Women's Bank. Because they are the multiplicity. 24-hour economy is a multiplicity. It's going to increase productivity. It's going to create employment. It is going to help our export drive. We will reduce import, so import substitution. Our currency will then begin to appreciate because we wouldn't need more money to go and bring certain things that we can produce here.
Okay.
So it will do so many things.
Definitely.
Women's Bank, likewise. Women who don't get access to capital, most of them are unbankable. Will be able to get money to do their small businesses. And you know, they hold the houses.
Definitely.
To be able to look after our
Honorable,
kids.
thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
And I'm sure with this, John Dramani Mahama, he has his work cut out for him, actually. Let's get Kweku Ricketts back in the finance ministry. Well, that's all. That's all time will allow us.
But God, you know, God will make a way.
Definitely.
I am the heir of John Mahama being back in power.
It's enough.
It's good for me.
All right, so that's it for us on the show this evening. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with us. I am Joshua Kodjo Mensah. Do have a wonderful night.